The District Library Board will come to order. This is the 17th, we're meeting right on September 11th, the 17th year of the great tragedy in this country, which I'm sure, well, it touched all of us, I know. And so I would like, before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like us to just give one moment of silence. I'm asking for a moment of silence for 9/11 before our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll let Joy get seated and then take that moment. Moment of silence. Thank you. We will now pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I don't think too, we'll get back on track. The call roll.
Tabor, present. Shahevitz. Present. Gossman.
Here.
Hughes-Gross. Present. Jerica.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Studebaker. Here.
A full house, everyone is here, and thank you. We are now at the point of approval of the agenda. I have not been notified of any changes, but if there's any last minute items people want added or changed, now is the time.
So,
Is there a motion? The motion is for the approval of the agenda as it is presented. It's seconded by Dawson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying no. The motion carries with no dissenting votes. The August 14th minutes are right here in your packet, and were distributed electronically earlier. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to look at them. I will entertain a motion on those.
Make a motion to approve the August 14th, 2018 regular meeting minutes.
Motion by Dawson, supported by Jerica, for approval of the minutes. Are there any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying no. The minutes carry with no dissenting votes. We are at the point of public comment. And is there any member of the public interested in commenting? Becky or Rosemary?
I just thought I'd attend.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're always glad to have Rosemary, and I'm sure we'll hear from David. The public. So, with all of that said, it looks like we are on item 6. And now we have a little business to take care of. The approval of resolutions authorizing millages on the December 2018 tax bill. You have those resolutions in your packet. We have
to do these individually.
yeah, I believe we do. So there is a resolution 2018-02, 03, and 04.
we are subject to a heavy rollback this year, so keep that in mind when you look at these. The first levy resolution 2018-02 is for our 7/10 mill. That's been rolled back to 0.6930. And that's reflected in the motion and in the resolution. The second resolution is our other operating millage, and that's 0.75, and that is, been reduced by Headley to 0.7425. The third resolution is the one for the payment of the bond, which is not subject to Headley. And this year, we are levying 0.64.
Thank you. We will take the resolutions individually, motions individually, and we'll vote on as a voice vote unless someone has any other recommendations. So do we have a,
I motion that we approve levy number 1 for the operating millage.
that's 2018-02.
Yes.
It's been moved by Stonemeyer and supported by
I'll support that.
Dawson, that we move levy number 1, 2018-02. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
We have to do a roll call.
Oh, do we,
Okay.
did somebody say it does have to be a roll call?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And that gives you more work. Trying to speed things along.
Okay. Hughes Groves. I'm gonna go this way, so we'll get it on. So, yes.
Dawson.
Chavez.
Yes.
Kafer, yes. Peters,
Yes,
Stoudemire.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
the motion carries with no dissenting votes. Now we are on number 2, 2018-03.
I motion that we approve the operating millage levy number 2, resolution number 2018-03.
Supported by Chehevitz, moved by Stoudemire, supported by Chehevitz. Any comment or questions, or hearing none? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm trying. Okay.
Hughes Groves,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes.
Chavez,
Yes.
Kafer, yes.
Peters, yes.
Stoudemire,
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
The motion carries with no dissenting votes.
I motion that we approve levy number 3, resolution number 2018-04, and this is related to the $14 million for the construction of furniture and equipment of the new library.
And support from
Hey, Dawson.
Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Hughes Groves,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes.
Chavez,
Yes.
Kafer, yes. Peters,
Yes.
Stoudemire,
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
Wow. That's our most official, action-oriented item number 6. Audit, we have to choose, item number 7 is the approval of an auditor. We have to choose, and materials have been here at the library for us to look at. I took a look this afternoon. I will ask Mary Jo to give us a little background, and then we can.
I did a quick little comparison sheet for you that's in your board pack. On the bottom of that sheet, it shows the proposed fees for each year. We invited 4 different auditing firms to bid. We received two proposals, one from our current auditor, Alan C. Young, the other one from SK&T, Stevens, Kiranovic, and Tucker. Alan C. Young is the lower bid for each of the next 3 years. Year 1, $7,425. Year 2, $7,425. Year 3, $7,800.
And this third year is gonna take us to 2021?
This is
For next year, starting next year,
The audit, that
that we're doing this
No,
year?
we'll do for
For
18,
18,
All right,
18,
for 2020, all right.
but the action will be 21. So you're right. I mean, the audit will be reported to us in 21, but it will be for the 2020 year. can't audit until the year's up.
Okay.
And we haven't had any problems with,
And there has been suggestion that trying to change auditor, unless there's a compelling reason, trying to change auditors when we have as much going on as we have with the building would be inviting some additional complications.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Juriga, yes,
I
we
make a
are.
motion, we have Alan C. Young become our library auditor.
Second.
There's a second by Hughes Groves, so moved by Juriga, seconded by Hughes Groves.
1 second, does it, do we
We
have to
can-
say
We can
for the
discuss it.
next 3 years?
Say,
Does the motion have to say for the next 3 years? If they're
Doesn't
giving
have
us
to
a
say
price
that.
for 3 years.
Well, if it can though, right? If you're agreeable as the maker of the motion and you're agreeable as the seconder of the motion.
I mean, wouldn't it, because both of them gave us their costs for 3 years. Right.
does Alan C. Young, his years of service already count on this? How many
No,
years?
No, this is the 3 years going
Okay.
forward.
Okay.
So if you would just, as I understand it, the amendment to the motion is to approve Alan C. Young and Associates as auditor for the next 3 years. Supported by Hughes Groves. Any further discussion or questions? All those little girls have little pink shorts on, it looks so cute.
I also had a chance to review the
And then-
proposal.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Even better, when the treasurer looked at the proposal. She knows what she's looking at. So, that all sounds like we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no. The motion carries with no dissenting votes. So there, we're moved to committee reports. And our first committee report is the building committee. Imagine that. So, I will open this by saying that our chair of the building committee, we are really fortunate to have a librarian who actually is really quite interested in buildings to chair the building committee. So with that, I will let her look at her notebook and tell the folks what they need to know.
I'm just gonna kind of summarize my notes. Well, I guess we've had 2 meetings. So we have been working on cutting. We did approve the aluminum glazing and the ceiling and partition. I didn't bring my whole notebook, I did our folder. We approved the aluminum and glazing bids and the ceiling and partition bids. And we,
I think it's all this need to be all carpentry, was it?
I think aluminum and
Oh, aluminum
carpentry.
glazing is separate.
Yeah, that's separate. We also, oh, see, Mary Jo has it, I didn't bring my whole notebook in with me.
Good.
Here we go. So out of bid pack 3, we approved the concrete flat work with a deduct to the changing slab on grade to 4 inches. We have approved the masonry brick cladding. Do you want all the companies?
No.
No. We've approved the waterproof and joint sealant bids. It had a few additions. The fire suppression system. The electrical and fire alarm with a caveat that we're trying to come up with some lower options on the electrical. Aluminum and glazing with an alternate for a vegetated roof and operable windows for roof access. And then the gypsum board assembly and carpentry. Yeah. So that was approved. Dan is working on fixture reductions, targeting, what are you targeting, Dan? $35,000, what more in reductions?
We know we found
Savings.
35,000 prior to our building committee meeting, and we're still working on that. Actually, we were supposed to get some numbers today, but we didn't get it, so
Okay.
we're still working on that.
And Neil is working with mechanical folks, trying to identify some more cost savings. They were trying to target more savings than they're gonna get.
Yeah, we're targeting 150, and we're thinking we're gonna get 75.
Yeah. There is a change order for sewer pipes, that was made to Blue Ribbon Contracting to rectify the issue, and they are supposed to give us a cost estimate for how much more time that costs them. We are working on another long list of savings and trying to find more places to nickel and dime away. There was some good news regarding permits recently.
We had a very positive, short but productive meeting with Rick Rutherford and Larry Pickle, who is the plan reviewing outside sort of third-party consultant the city hired. So we met with him Friday morning, and everything on the permit everything on the drawings is approved. But the only outstanding issue that we had to discuss at that meeting was the oval stair. And they just had some questions about a technical issue about the landing, and so they just wanted us to show some lines in the drawing to confirm that it won't go, and so we sent that to them today. So we should be all set. So permit should be forthcoming.
To interpret, we still have the circular staircase, correct?
Slightly oval.
Yeah,
Oval,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's-
okay.
Yeah.
Ellipse.
Most people think it's a circular, but
Yeah.
it's technically more sort of oval or elliptical.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And it will meet code.
it does meet code, yes.
The good thing is it's not square.
Good.
Or
We
Real
still,
good.
we still have
Side by
budget, we have budget challenges, but that's a separate subject.
Or
Yeah.
it's not a fire pole for people
No.
to shoot up and down.
we did take out the option to take the lines of the sunscreen past. So the sunscreen was on the terrace, and then it continued a bay past on each side of that corner. We have, that is off the table now, and we're working to keep the sunscreen on the terrace, but that may have to go too. We're working.
Let me correct you. The sunshade is not in the project from a cost standpoint, budget-wise. But
Hypothetically,
we have the infrastructure there to add it back at a later date at some point in this process. But the sunshade itself has been as an alternate, and so for us to be able to afford the alternate means we have to find additional savings to be able to add that.
so you're basically saying in the event someone gives us the money or we get the money, we can still add the sun shading?
On the terrace.
To the terrace.
What about the other sun shading? What if,
No,
No.
it's
What
gone.
we had,
you're saying it's too late?
Yeah, because
well, we made
we're not
the building committee made the decision, but the issue was, in order to extend, to allow the sunshade element to extend beyond the actual boundaries of the outdoor terrace and across the facade of the building, one column bay on Roy Street and on Charles Street, we had to put in a different structural steel beam to carry that. And I don't understand why, but that had an extraordinarily expensive cost. It was $40,000 to do that. So the building committee said, we're not gonna do that, we'll give that up. And that got conveyed to the steel contractor, so they're not fabricating that.
So it's-
No, they're not fabricating anything
So what
yet.
you're saying is too late.
Yeah, you were at that meeting.
You were
I was
right
at the
there.
meeting, I'm just wanting to testify something.
Yeah.
It's too late for that 30 feet of
Extra.
extra sunshade on both sides. We still have on the table, as part of a decision process with the building committee, and depending on funding, the ability to add back in the sunshade where it actually would be over top of the actual terrace where people would go out and sit and walk around. So we got rid of essentially what was functional in terms of shading the glass that looks into the stack areas, but not shading where people would be outside. So one of the items on our target list is to eliminate the steel roofing support that turns the corner across the terrace that the sunshade would attach to. If the building committee makes that decision to accept that change, then the sunshade would be off the table entirely. So
At
that's
this point.
that's to come. Probably I'm hoping we'll discuss that at our building committee meeting next week.
The stormwater and the sanitary sewer, and I believe now the water is all done. So those utilities have been moved. Except for, well, they were still waiting to do a water pressure test at our last meeting. So I don't know what the status is of that. DTE is not gonna slow us down, but but they are looking at the project differently than was originally worked out, and so there's like a first phase and a second phase, and it's more complicated than it was originally supposed to be. But,
Which has to do with two poles,
yeah,
the two poles.
We can wait on that, can't we?
yeah,
It doesn't
it's not
impact.
ideal.
DTE took the approach of looking at this project and doing kind of the bare minimum, what they needed to do to make the power work, and ignored what Comcast and AT&T need to do to maintain their services. So Dean is working through with that with them, but the issue that we have that we need to get, I think we want to get resolved, is we currently have AT&T and Comcast cabling extending over our construction site. And those are supposed to be gone by now, but they need to be moved on to these two poles that DTE, for, if it was decided not to install yet, they want to come back and do that after this building is torn down. No particular reason why, that is just what they thought they would do, so.
Do we need political help to get this moved down?
Not yet. I think Dean has been dealing with them, and I still have, I think I've shared it with Matt and Dean, the name of the government affairs liaison. I think that would be the person for us to go to if we think we need to make them jump. So.
And I still have her boss, the vice president for government affairs, so
Oh.
we can contact as well, who I contacted before.
I think.
But we didn't decide to pull those
Right.
questions.
We're not there yet. I think he's working through that with the service planners.
Right.
So we are still hundreds of thousands of dollars over budget, and we're gonna, next week, really start making more hard decisions,
Can I add,
including lowering the owner's contingency, taking out millwork around the fireplace, things like that. There's a lot of things on.
Didn't we talk about eliminating the fireplace?
Eliminating the fireplace entirely. Yeah.
Well, there was also talk about having it ready to have an insert put in
Right,
Yeah,
without totally eliminating it. That it could be added
it
later.
could be added later, yeah.
yeah.
Looking at a defer list of items
Right,
that can be added
right.
later.
I think it's important for the whole board and the public to know that our construction people are working diligently with all the approved, all the approved contractors to find ways to,
Well, and that's why we had to get contracts, get the contracts approved that were, you know, within reason, and then we got quite a few bids on, so that they could work with us to get our costs
to
down.
get costs down
It was worth
further.
it. Yeah.
So that's part of what the committee is waiting for, is to see what kind of progress is taking place in those areas.
And then, I wasn't at this meeting, but Dan and Mary Jo had a meeting with Sumter.
I was not.
You weren't at that one. And with the attorneys, so they're looking at the project as two different projects. Their outside project with some possible, things going on inside. The timetable will not be this fall. So we don't know exactly when that's gonna be, but there still needs to be, my understanding is a more detailed breakdown of who's doing what.
I can add a few more things if you like.
Go ahead.
The water utilities, I think, are complete, at least in Roy Street. I guess a bit of good news is we were planning on bringing in a new water service to refeed the museum. Instead, what they ended up doing is just keeping the existing 4-inch water line that goes into that building. So I think they ended up adding a new valve so they can control it, but that was kind of on the upside of having to maybe not do some work that we were planning on doing. In getting that work done, they had some issues, or the city had some issues and couldn't, their valves weren't holding to allow them to do that work, so the city had to put in some line stops to make that happen, and that all got coordinated and taken care of, so that work could be completed. So I think the majority of the phase 1 utility work is complete. We still have a lot of phase 2 utility work to deal with. Late this afternoon, I got a call from Matt, and we have a new utility surprise, and so I don't know if you looked in the hole out here yet today, but there's a 8 to, I think it starts at 8 and goes to 12-inch storm pipe that they've uncovered that nobody knew was there.
It's got a whole bunch of holes in it.
Yeah, it's not in great shape. So that's a little bit of a mystery that we're all just starting to deal with. So Matt has suggested they're gonna have it scoped with a camera to try to figure out where it's going.
Is it functional? It looks kind of dry.
It's
It doesn't look like
not
it could
clear. There's
function.
obviously some water there, but who knows if that's water from 30 years ago. or-
Yeah.
But we don't, the two ends are not uncovered, so we don't know what it's doing, if it's doing anything, so. And the city was unaware that it existed, so that's, chalk that up to fun with construction. And then just sort of the bigger picture, I think just this week got in our first portion of the structural steel shop drawings as far as their sequencing plans, so those are starting to roll in, and we and our engineers will be reviewing those, and once those are approved, then the steel contractor will start fabricating those, so that's part of this process of trying to have steel on site sometime around Thanksgiving, so that is, I think, progressing, and I saw out there before the meeting, we have a pile of anchor bolts piled up there on the 4th Street, so that's a good sign that concrete foundations are gonna begin fairly soon, so we're still making progress, but there's always,
We're about a month behind,
I
but
think
there was also a little bit of a gap in there that was built in, so hopefully we're not a real month behind.
Yeah, we were a month behind on the original site work schedule, but I think it hasn't impacted the building construction schedule, so we had a little bit of actual downtime, so.
When the valves did not function, that belonged to the city, how many line stops were purchased?
I'm not certain on that, at least two, that we do one on each end.
But we do know that the city paid for it.
The city was responsible for covering those costs. One of the things that was beneficial is the excavation that they had made in Roy Street, where they cut the pavement to excavate for the new hydrant and the new water service to the buildings. That was wide enough for the city to actually do the line stops within that excavation. So that is where these things can be very expensive, when you have to cut the pavement down the street and do all that. So that was kind of fortunate that it worked out well for everyone in that regard. Again, it was one of those surprises that you don't really hope happens. So that's that. I talked about permit. So I think that's.
Do we know what permit costs are yet?
We do not. We're still waiting to get that number from the city. Yeah, the sooner we can get that, the better, because that's a line item we're carrying. So if it's less than what we're carrying, that would be nice to know.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the building committee report? If not, we will move on to other committee reports, but I thank Joy and Dan and all for the information, for keeping people up to date on what's going on. Bylaws committee, John?
I have nothing.
No report. Finance committee, Tanya?
No report.
Good. You did work with our resolutions and auditor stuff, so we're moving along with our finance in proper order. Is there anything from marketing, Alma?
I'd say something else.
Yeah, is there anything?
Michelle, who works here, put together 2 wonderful gift bags of books and other cool stuff. One for the chamber golf outing last Thursday, and then another one for Saturday's event for the Van Buren Public School Fund.
Great.
Huge bags with lots of books and stuff.
Good. Good. Well, it's being a good chamber member and good community member, and it's good for us to know what our staff and what our library is doing. So thank you, and that is part of our marketing and part of our community engagement, so I appreciate that information. Item 8E is the personnel committee. No report, Michelle. And the policy committee?
I have nothing to report.
No report. Well, I do have, I'm gonna take a little privilege and add something I should have stuck in there. I think you're all well aware that the board developed an art committee, and out of the art committee has developed an ad hoc fund development committee. The art committee took a little hiatus over summer and will reconvene full, but there's a lot of overlapping members that have been involved in the fund development committee, and the fund development committee has now met in the fall, met a couple of times in the spring, or in early summer, and now once in the fall. And I consider this board to be very strong stewards of the public dollar in how we are handling the building. And Joy already reported on the many steps we're taking to keep our budget in line. I am pleased, though, that our fund development committee, it would be premature, and I'm still a bit conservative, so I won't say too much, but the fund development committee has some promise for some fairly large funds. We already know of the COZAD Foundation from the Rotary, but we have some indications that we may be seeing some other grants of around that size and some other smaller grants. my hope is that we can bring through that effort a few $100,000 if we, as usual, we will raise our goal as we get up, which all will help with the shortfall that Joy has so in such detail described to us. We will, one of the things, and so I can't say a lot about that other than there is some promise. We have some promising and we have some generous people in the community, and we are all asked to think about this and think about those people that you know in the community. And I can ask you whether you're on that committee or not. I can ask everybody in this room or everybody in the public who has an interest in our library, who knows people who might be able to support some of our efforts. And we do have a outline of kinds of things that we are asking people to support, and we do have some promise coming along on that to take us, to make a substantial dent. And so I'm pleased about that. The Fund Development Committee is talking about formulating an event sometime this fall that might bring community members together to kind of get more information on what kinds of things their donations might go toward. So we have always said, we've long talked about seeking ways that we can raise private dollars to help us with the issues. And now that we are full deep up to our elbows in the issues and several $100,000 in adjustments that we have to make on the budget, it is good that we have this effort going on raising funds. And we'll report more as our progress comes forward. I don't know, Mary Jo, if you feel there's anything that you want to add on that subject now, or not.
I can tell you about a check we did just receive last week for $10,000.
Good.
So that will add to the COSAD money as well as the DAR
And that was for,
contribution. It was for one of the
Study
rooms upstairs.
right, good.
And it's a very private individual, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. We have a few private individuals who have expressed interest, and we will be, there are some who are indicating desire to remain anonymous completely. There are others that are quite interested in making their donations public. I just don't want to make any statements before the fact. But I want the public and the board to know that we are working hard to find ways, not just that we're taking a two-pronged approach. We are cutting where we can, and a lot of the cuts that Joy was talking about we're looking at ways that probably won't even be observable to the public when they come in there. There'll be things that we may know because there were ideas that we knew were in the plan. So we're trying to make the adjustments in a way that damages the overall, that has a minimum negative impact on our overall project. But along with that effort, we are also trying to find dollars to support and to allow community embrace and legacy opportunity to the community in terms of supporting this library. So, vague though it may be, that is our report. And as this event develops, that will be something that we want to engage the entire board in, and we will let you know. It certainly won't happen before our next board meeting. Any questions? All righty, then we are on to spend some money, approve accounts payable. And we have our as we did last month, the request for payment for the construction, which details the major issues for the building. So we have our regular accounts payable and then the extra issue.
And the the payment application from O'Neill Construction, the building committee approved that, contingent upon Dan and I signing off on that, which we did, so you'll probably have an accounts payable check for this application in your next board pack.
Great check.
I motion to approve the accounts payable as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Studemeyer and seconded by Dawson, to approve the accounts payable. Before we vote, it is appropriate if anybody has any questions, we don't wanna shortchange anything, we wanna, make sure everybody's comfortable when we're spending money. Seeing no interest in comment, we can, move on to a vote on this duly made motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no. The ayes have it unanimously, and we have taken care of item 9 on our agenda. And now we get to some of the more fun parts, I hope. Our director's report. We have come to expect interest and good information to come out of that. And we've got good promotion of some of our activities coming up, so. Mary Jo?
Yes, we are instituting a new series of programs at the library called Community Connections. I put a flyer in your board pack for one of our first programs. It's a storytelling event with LaRon Williams. It's designed for people of all ages, going from age 11 on up. So it's slightly older audience than a young child. But we really want to bring groups from all walks of life together at these programs. So this event will be coming up.
He's a very good.
I've heard
And you've
good
been
things
at
about it. He's
your-
gonna be
Yeah.
exciting.
My wife had Mr. Williams at her school,
You know.
and she says it was really good.
We don't have to sit on the floor, do we?
No.
And
Well,
if
you
we-
might have to be pulled up and asked to sing or dance or act out.
That would be fun to do.
If they put us on the floor, they have to have somebody to get us on. That's for me.
So that's gonna be
Speaking for
September,
myself.
September 25th at 7 p.m. Another Community Connections event that we're going to be having, won't happen until after the next board meeting, so I can remind you about it again then, but it's going to be a community sing program, and it's hosted by Matt Wetruba. I'm not sure if anybody knows him or
Oh,
not.
yeah.
He's been on the radio for many, many years on WBET. He's a
He
folk singer.
just played that music in the park.
Yeah, he and
a couple weeks ago.
Robert Jones were music in the park in August, and that's where I met him. He does this program for a number of libraries. I think his most long-lived program has been at the Farmington Library. I cannot sing. I am a very terrible singer, and I am looking forward to this program. You do not have to sing to participate. It's just an opportunity to be able to come together. And, if you sing in the shower or sing in the
You
car
can hum.
or hum, you can.
I can hum in 14 languages.
Clap.
Good for you, John. You are a talented man.
Yeah. We did hire a couple of additional circulation clerks this past month. This gives us a little bit of extra help on our stable. And that purpose is twofold. We have a staff member out on leave, so that helps with that, but it also helps to give us some substitutes. They will be helping in addition with some different projects that we've been working on in order to get all of our books and materials ready for the new library, for the move. And I also want to introduce as many people as possible to this library and how we run and how we operate before we turn them loose into a new library. So we kind of want to get the staff vibe, before that happens. Also in your pack, I think I lost mine. Do you have
I have some,
Sure.
your last one is something I want to.
do you have about Beverly Jenkins in your?
I do, I have the Beverly Jenkins.
I got two.
I wanna-
You have two? You have mine then.
First you go and I got some.
Where'd it go? I know I have.
Beverly Jenkins has been awarded the Michigan Author of the Year Award from the Michigan Library Association. So we're very happy about that. Our neighbor, she's been very good to the library over the years. She's done many programs for us here. And I don't know she's fantastic. She's just such a lovely person.
On that note, I'd like to add Beverly Jenkins is one of the reasons that I actually decided to move here to Belleville, because I had two lifelong friends, Beverly, one of them, went to college with me. And she is a remarkable woman. She also is a member of my church and very spiritually motivated and has carried a lot of weight in many areas. But her writing, she's a romance novelist, but she's also a historian and just a fantastic storyteller. So it's with great appreciation that we see her getting the recognition, and she has been getting recognition nationwide. So I'm so happy our state and our library association, I have to say I had nothing to do with it. I didn't nominate her or anything, but she really, really is a gem and a jewel to our community.
Did you want to talk about Hoopla?
Yeah, Hoopla is available now. We did a soft turnaround of it actually in August. And we did a sheet advertising it in your broadcast. It's very, very user-friendly, very easy to use. So
And people have been taking advantage
We've
of
been
it.
starting to, we're just now rolling out the publicity for it, so that they will be taking advantage of it even more. I think we had about 42 checkouts just in the last 2 weeks in August without any kind of advertising whatsoever, so,
The question,
42.
yes.
A waitress at the,
I left them
a waitress at the Egan's Pub says she's got a Canton membership.
Okay.
She says she can use that also, right?
I think Canton has some play, I would have to look at, does she live here or does she live in Canton?
She lives here,
Okay.
but she has a Canton. She used to live in Canton,
She's-
but she has a Canton
I don't
membership.
think so.
Huh? But we,
We have reciprocity.
We have reciprocity, I'm not sure what their policy is regarding non-residents
Okay.
with their electronic
Right.
services.
Okay. I'll encourage her to get our membership.
But either way, yeah, she
Yeah.
gets our library, she
Good.
can use it. So.
My friend here didn't get that,
Okay, I didn't either. so
Here, I
something
know.
happened. Yeah,
Go
here's-
ahead. I love
and I
it.
left my copy at home for my husband.
It's really good
You're
service.
making a
Everybody
hoopla
who
over it.
we show it to loves it. You know, because it's so easy to use and there's a huge amount of stuff in there.
Great.
I didn't know it was available on Roku.
That was what I was referring to in the newsletter, when I talked about the things that we're already doing before we move into the new library. We're already starting to expand our services. So thank you. Are there any questions or any further questions? You don't have any of that stuff in your report? Okay. Maybe one of the ones over there might have it on.
Here, you can, I can't go to this.
I just gave it to
Oh, you have that one.
All right.
Yours.
Yeah, she has mine too.
Are there any other questions for Mary Jo? Any comments on her report? As usual, Mary Jo, it was very informative, and that's one of the reasons all of us like our library jobs, because the kind of things we do here are very interesting for the whole community. So we are now at the time for trustee comments, and I'll start with Mr. Juriga today.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to thank you for that moment of silence. I think it was very appropriate. I appreciate that. Also, this Saturday, I think I passed these out last time I was here, in my yard. This Saturday from 10 to 4, we're having 12 or 13 artists sharing their local, basically local artists. I also invited, I'm on the committee for Belleville Senior Transportation Committee, so I invited them to some of the jellies and jams, so they'll be there also,
Well,
hopefully.
that's nice.
So it should be a very good time. Again, there'll be food and wine and other drinks too, so.
Vino.
Please, it's fun. You don't have
I
to
know.
buy anything, you know, just come, it's fun.
It
It's
is
always a
fun, and
lovely
the art is
afternoon.
beautiful.
I always work. I want to know your dates when you guys know them, so I can schedule myself not to work.
Okay.
Tell them you have to
Every
take a
time.
long bathroom break. Tanya?
I just want to thank the building committee for the hard choices that they're making, you know, in terms of finding us some additional savings. And I missed the meeting last month, so I'm gonna make sure I get that from you. And also, I shouldn't have any other issues as far as missing meetings, but I have been asked to sit on, I've been asked by the mayor to sit on the selection committee for the city's new CFO, so
No,
I'm gonna be kind of busy with that as well.
so you'll be choosing, will that be your boss?
Choosing
You'll be
my
choosing
boss.
your boss.
Good for you. It's always a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Well, then you wanna make sure you're there for that.
Yeah, yes, we'll,
So I
very
definitely want to
important.
get more involved in the building committee, because I know it's starting to get a little more difficult.
Yeah, we'll get through that, but we appreciate knowing what you're doing for the city of Detroit, and that's important work. So good luck with that. Lachelle, my dear. Well, she is hard at work. Our secretary is hard at work, and she is putting, without words, she's putting her efforts in. Joy.
I want to thank you and Mary Jo for the fund development work you're doing. That takes a special kind of person. I'm not one of those, and I appreciate it. It's a very important role, and I'm glad we have folks who are skilled and connected who can do that. And I know it's not just you and Mary Jo. I know there are other people in this room who are playing roles in that way too, but I appreciate that.
Thank you. And everybody can have a role in letting people know that there's opportunities for them to be involved, so we thank you for that effort too. Mary Jane.
Well, I'd like to echo what Joy just said about the fund development. Because I know there are a lot of people that really would like to support the library. They may not have $1 million, but we'll take whatever nickels they
That's
have.
right. No amount is too small.
Right. On another note, I'd also like to thank you for the moment of silence. I get very emotional on this day because I remember, as I'm sure all of you do, where you were when the plane hit, when the second plane hit, when the towers fell, when the Pentagon got attacked, and we're 40 brave people who didn't really know anybody saved what I believe was the Capitol building and all of our representatives and senators. That particular day, my brother was in New York City, and he always went to the World Trade Center when he was there because he had business that he did for the Sisters of Mercy. His boss couldn't get a hold of him because all the lines were down, so it wasn't until about 3:30 that afternoon that he called me and he said, "Mary Jane." I'm like, "Gordon, are you okay?" "I'm fine, I'm fine. I don't know how I'm gonna get home, probably on a train, but I'm fine. Pray for the people." I also had a cousin and a wife and his wife who worked at the Pentagon. And it wasn't until 2 days later that I was able to get a hold of him to make sure that he and Nancy were okay, and they were. But they went the whole day without knowing if the other one was okay, because they worked in opposite portions of the Pentagon, and they were very busy helping the injured and trying to find people in rubble. So for some people, I think some people just look at this as maybe just another day. The kids who are in school now don't have any real recognition of it. Just like I didn't have a real recognition of December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. But I think it's really important that besides the moment of silence and the flags at half-mast, we need to make sure that the kids that are in school, and the kids who haven't even been born yet, know what happened to us, what happened to our country, how everyone came together, and that there were a whole lot of brave people who died that day and are still dying because of the effects. So, I'm sorry if I got a little teary-eyed, but this is a very somber day for me. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Alan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, again, special thanks to the building committee and Sharon also. And she was touching on the 9/11. I was at the Lions game last night, and they had a recipient to come forward, and it was just absolutely overwhelming for people. Just watching him and just the tears flowing, and people that were in the stands, you know, became very emotional. And as she said, you know, it's a day that we should not forget. I remember it like it was yesterday. I didn't have any family or friends there, but it was definitely something that should not be forgotten.
Thank you. Now for chair comments to further that, yeah, 9/11, 2001 was a very major issue for our family. Our daughter was a congressional intern that fall and was in the Capitol at the time, and we were affected by that. Mary Jane also mentioned the people that are still dying, first responders, but people in the neighborhood. I have a first cousin who lived on 16th Street, and he had lung disease, and he died about 6 months in New York City. I mean, I talked to him afterwards, and he could look out his window and see the towers falling. And about 6 months later, he died of the lung disease he had, which I know that he and thousands of others are victims of 9/11, and the stories that are coming out of the cancers and the other kinds of diseases that people are still dealing with. It is a lasting, has lasting impact, and certainly had impact on our family. With regard to my chair comments, I am very happy that our new newsletter, it always takes a little time for it to get out, but it is now out. And I was hoping when I wrote the chair comments, we were at one of those little stuck times out here where all the machines were just sitting there, and John Juriga was running around pulling his hair out every day because nothing was happening. And I wanted to talk about how we were buzzing right along, and so I said, well, I'd go ahead and do it. And when I walked in earlier today, and all the machines were buzzing along, and I could see that pipe that Dan was talking about a little earlier. It has a bunch of holes in it. It looks ancient. I at least know that for the public, and for us, especially for us, but for the public to be able to see that motion is going on, and also to understand, this is a point made at the building committee, the last building committee, and our construction, Matt comes, and Dean, our construction man who does everything, he's he's a hands-on guy, and he reminded us that all these details that we're dealing with the utilities and with the city and with various engineers are all part of all this site preparation, and that's what's been going so slowly. But once those are once those are out of the way, we have less complications. There's less entities that we have to deal with. When we get to building the building up, it goes along the way the construction planners have planned it. So even while it doesn't look like a lot might have been happening in some of the last couple of months, and we're all impatient about it, getting these very difficult ground foundational elements completed is huge, and I am grateful that that is happening and appreciate all the hard work, not only on our team, but also the entities we have to work with to get this done. And it is exciting, and it is exciting that there is community support for us, and we're looking for more. So just stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have more news, more progress in adjusting our budget, and more progress in bringing in the dollars to help us realize our dreams for our new library. And with that, Mr. Jerigo,
Madam Chair, I make a motion, meeting be adjourned.
I'll second.
it is moved by Jerigo, supported by Dawson. It is not debatable. All those in favor? Aye. The motion, and opposed, there are no nays.
We wouldn't dare.